The architecture of resistance, why the highest climbs require the greatest vigilance. Many people believe that after enough healing, spiritual growth, and self-understanding, they eventually become immune to deception. We imagine that once we've climbed high enough, the tests are behind us. We believe that through dedication, inner work, integration of our shadows, and a lifetime of compassionate action, we eventually reach a plateau where we become untouchable, immune to the gravitational pull of deception. History and the hidden architecture of this realm tell a different story. No matter how far along the path a soul travels, the risk of misdirection remains. The greater the light you carry, the more sophisticated the attempts to dim it. To understand this reality, we must look beyond the abstract and examine memories from my own descent as the aeon Jesuliah, encounters from an age long past, and recognize their reflection in the boardrooms of our modern world. The descent and the village on the outskirts, long before the modern era, stepping down into the dense frequency of this plane, was an act of immense pressure. Descending from higher realms felt less like a gentle arrival and more like a diamond being forced through a crushing weight of friction and atmospheric density. The sheer heaviness of the human emotional landscape pressed in from all sides. Yet, even within that dense environment, certain souls shone like beacons. In a small village tucked away on the northwestern edges of ancient Africa lived a man whose soul was remarkably integrated, Chimwemwe. He possessed no grand title, nor did he dwell near the citadels of power. His days were spent in quiet service, caring for the elderly, sharing meagre provisions, and working with his hands to invent simple, practical remedies and tools to alleviate the suffering of his community. He had done the deep, quiet work of self-mastery. His intent was pure, and his compassion seemed to radiate outward, making him stand out within the greater, energetic fabric of consciousness. He was a man destined to create a breakthrough, a medicinal discovery that would ripple across a chain of events to alter the trajectory of countless lives. And because of that potential, he caught the attention of Samael, the mask of the benefactor. Samael does not always approach with terrifying visages or overt malice. More often he comes wearing the mask of a provider. In that ancient village he appeared to the inventor as a wealthy benefactor, offering endless resources, tools, and financial backing under the guise of supporting his craft. The promise was simple: keep creating, and I will give you everything you want. The trap closed slowly. The inventor poured his heart into his work, only to discover that his life-saving creations were never reaching the people. They were being hoarded, locked away from the community that desperately needed them. When confronted, the benefactor shifted his tactic, whispering that the inventions were too precious to share with ordinary people, that they should be kept solely for elite accumulation. It was at that moment that the illusion fractured. The inventor saw through the flattery and refused to comply. Enraged by defiance, expecting absolute obedience from a system designed to feed his influence, the mask dropped entirely. Shedding the human guise, Samael revealed his true towering form. Demanding total submission, he laid out the ultimate ultimatum: look upon absolute power, accept the bargain, and surrender free will. Standing before a primal entity of pure intimidation, the inventor did not panic. Looking past the terror, he offered a quiet, unwavering refusal. I do not know what you are trying to offer me, but I will not give myself to you. He became the rare soul who looked the darkness in the eye and turned it down. From my vantage point, watching the encounter unfold, it stood as a singular testament to an unbroken spirit, the vulnerability of deep desires. The story of Shea as an aeon, we perceive the splintering of all possible futures, watching the multiple trajectories a soul might walk. Most of the paths I saw for a woman named Shea were luminous. Her soul, like the inventor's, had grown over millennia into a peaceful, compassionate presence. that had integrated its shadows into a structure of strength rather than destruction. She was an only child in a small village, crafting clothing and finding quiet peace within herself, yet carrying a quiet, persistent longing for a sister, a companion, to share her life. Samael knew how to find the single fracture point in an otherwise fortified heart. He appeared to her not as a monster, but as a long-lost sister she had always dreamed of having. For a soul that had cultivated so much inner peace, the sudden warmth of having a confidant bypassed her usual defenses. But this was a trap designed to awaken the ego through pride. Slowly, subtly, the false sister began to inflate Shea's perception of her craft, whispering that her clothing designs were vastly superior to anyone else's, that only she possessed such exceptional talent. I watched with a heavy heart as the trajectory shifted. As her ego swelled under the influence, Shea alienated her entire community with her arrogance. And then the cruelest part of the design revealed itself. Once the trap had closed and her spirit was fractured by isolation, the illusion vanished. The sister disappeared, leaving her entirely alone. She spent the rest of her days in solitude. It was a devastating reminder that even the most spiritually evolved among us can fall when the illusion touches our deepest, unfulfilled human desires. The modern boardroom, the test, remains the same. The theatre may change, but the script remains identical. Today, Samael's methods have traded ancient robes and desert rocks for corporate suits, performance metrics, and sales quotas. Consider the modern financial sector. Years ago, during a period in banking, professionals were handed complex lending guidelines and pushed to sell interest-only home equity lines of credit to borrowers who could never sustainably afford the eventual principal payments. The corporate directive was clear: put them into the loan, the branch gets paid more. The pressure to conform, to chase the bonus, and to satisfy the institution mirrors the ancient trap. Compliance is rewarded, and ethical compromise is masked as standard business practice. When a professional looks at a vulnerable borrower, recognizes the impending harm, and draws a hard line, stating simply, "No, I will not do this," they are enacting the exact same resistance. Integrity is rarely tested on a grand, mythical stage. It is tested in the quiet, mundane moments, where you are asked to trade a piece of your soul for the convenience of the machine. The eternal warning millions remain entangled in systems of compliance, distraction, and unexamined ego. Arrogance is one of the most effective tools of deception, using temporary spiritual highs, inflated self-importance, or unhealed personal desires to trigger a fall. These memories from the ancient past, mirrored in the trials of the modern boardroom, serve as a sobering reminder. Distance traveled on the spiritual path does not grant immunity. Eternal vigilance, profound humility, and an unyielding commitment to truth are the only armor we possess. Reflection. As you walk your own path, take a moment to look back. Can you recall a specific instance in your life where you stood at a crossroads, forced to choose between your integrity, ethics, and truth over the allure of financial gain, comfort, or compliance? What did you choose in that moment, and how did it feel in your spirit afterward? Whether the outcome brought the quiet peace of holding your ground or the heavy regret of compromise, remember that every choice writes the next chapter of your soul's journey. No matter how dark the room gets or how persuasive the offer, the power to look the system in the eye and say no has always belonged to you. While this particular memory is not included in the Ark of Truth, it arises from the same stream of remembrance that shaped the book. If this reflection resonated with you and you'd like to explore these ideas more deeply, I invite you to continue the journey in the Ark of Truth, Sabbath Jesuliah, the 13th Prime Aeon.